Welcome. Before going into today's program, I would just like to give an apology to Jim Miller, who I interviewed earlier in the week, but unbelievably, by coincidence, in Mike's illustrious career, he's dealt with two Jim Millers. And I, in interviewing Jim Miller from Jefferson, actually thought I was going to be interviewing Jim Miller from Benton Community. And so I started that interview by saying, "So you must have been in the class of 85?" And he was very befuddled. He's like, "Well, you just aged me because I'm actually the class of 89." And that's when I realized, "Oh, you're not the Jim Miller from Benton Community."
Yes, I had two.
Yeah.
Both good guys, both strong in the
And
theater department.
and truly, absolutely believed and so at that moment I was like, okay, everything I was going to ask about just out the window, and so there you go. So, sorry, Jim, and other Jim, I would love to talk to you sometime too, but yeah. So today's topic, sorry, I'm really not doing my host duties. Today's topic is to discuss Mike's first play that he had to direct. Where you're the CEO calling the shots. What was it, and when was it?
Well, interestingly, multiple choices here. So various levels. First play I directed in directing class was a cutting from Oh Dad, Poor Dad, Mama's Hung You in the Closet and I'm Feeling So Sad by Arthur Kopit. Strange little piece. Look it up sometime. Oh Dad, Poor Dad, Mama's Hung You in the Closet and I'm Feeling So Sad. I did
Okay.
that, did about a half an hour cutting in a directing class. When I graduated, I actually directed the play at UNI in their summer repertory program that they did. And the summer rec actually started as a true repertory theater. They would do three plays performing in rotation. So you do play one on one night, play two the next night, play three the next night, play one the next performance, whether it was the next night or the next weekend or whatever. By the time I was there, we actually did runs. So we did three plays. We did one play for a run of whatever, 2 weekends, the second play and the third play. That was the show off. And I can't tell you who wrote it. Set in the 20s about this really brash character that wants to marry this young lady, and it's all about her family's reaction to him. The show off was played, I remember, by Bob Justice, who eventually became the voice of UNI basketball and announced them basketball games. Okay, let's see what's next. Uh, First play I did at Benton Community was Brother Goose. Just looking for shows that sounded cute. I didn't pull anything, from the canon. It was a comedy about a brother. The parents have passed away, as I remember, and he has to take over the family. John Becker and Cindy Heller, I think, were in that, if I can remember back that far. Yeah, I think that's pretty good on who was in the play. Maybe not. Can't remember. First musical I did was Oklahoma. We did that in the gym at Blairstown, which is where our stage was. Who was in that? Randy Merchant played Curly. Hmm. Man, that's about all I can remember of that cast. I mean, that's been a long time ago. That would have been 1970, 71, I think that would have been. So a few years ago. Um,
50,
First play I
55 counts as a few years. Okay, yes, yes.
yeah, yeah. First play I did at Jefferson. Gee, I think that was Funky Winkerbean's Homecoming. And I had never read Funky Winkerbean. Funky Winkerbean is a cartoon series, was in the daily comics. For those old enough to remember the newspaper and the comics on a page of the newspaper.
What's the name of the comic? I don't know the name of this comic.
Funky Winkerbean. It was not in the Cedar Rapids Gazette. Funky Winkerbean.
I'm looking it up. Keep going. I'm
Okay.
listening.
And it had music in it. And was really a fun little show and a cute little comedy about this Funky Winker being in high school. Let's see who can remember. There's a strange thing about things coming around. coming back. Funky Winkerbean was played by Andy Weld. Andy Weld's father was John Weld, who was on the faculty at Jefferson. Years later, my granddaughter's going to Monticello High School. I'm there to see her in a show, and out walks their counselor. The counselor was Amy Weld, who is Andy's older sister. She is now married, Hospodarsky, I believe her name is, being the counselor at Monticello High School. So my kids knew her, but they didn't know her as a Weld. We met after the show, chatted a little bit, kind of renewed old acquaintances. Okay, you think that's a no? So a couple, 3 years ago, I'm contacted by a young man in development at UNI, wanting to hit an old alum up for some more money. Well, it's Amy's son, who now is Andy Weld's, that would be Andy was his uncle. So this strange small world where all of a sudden I'm meeting these characters, okay? Other people in that. Greg Butts was in that, played the bus driver, had a really fun little song. God, I can't remember anybody else in that. And yeah, that's kind of all the first shows that I did. Um, first, yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Interesting, a number of firsts there. And for not remembering many of the shows I did, I do remember those as being the first shows that I did.
What was when you went in to do your very first show at UNI where you are the director, what was your mindset or concern about what could go right or what could go wrong?
I don't think I had too much concern about what could go wrong because they were all college students and good students because they were in the repertory program. So they were staying in. And so I really didn't have a big concern about that, what could go right or what could go wrong. I was excited to work in the theater we were working in, which no longer exists. At that time, what is now Lang Hall is a lecture hall. And when I went there was the old administration building, and it was just called the auditorium, the Odd. But there was Sabin building was, 3 or 4 buildings away, next to the Union. Sabin had been an elementary school. It had a gym in the basement. It was no longer used as an elementary school. It was now an academic building of some kind. Social sciences, I really don't know what, but they had turned the gym into a little theater. So at half court, basically, or maybe a little bit short of half court, they put a stage that was about 24 inches off the floor, built a platform and put a stage in there, put a proscenium up with plywood, and then put seating on the other side from that stage. So from about mid court to the wall under a basket was seating, maybe 100, 125 seats, just a really nice little space. So it was really fun to direct in that space. That made it really fun. We built the set and then had to bring it from the auditorium building, kind of down, I don't know, like I said, 3 or 4 buildings. The auditorium was actually at one end of the Union and a little bit. Sabin Hall was next to the Union at the other end of it. So it was kind of a trek to move things, maybe driving a pickup truck along the sidewalks there and then taking things into a door because the little theater was in the basement, kind of a half story down from the main entrance there. So, a really neat memory of not being concerned about it. I was probably, a new college graduate, so I was all full of myself that I was going to do this great job. And, I went okay, I guess. We had a good time doing it. And we did it in a really neat space that was fun to direct in.
But okay, what year in college were you at this point?
I graduated.
Oh, you've already graduated. So you'd already
So,
graduated
so
from college. So
right. So I graduated in
you're
May, and that
legitimately
was,
post grad at this point.
yes. So it was just
And
the summer after.
the people you're directing are all college students, or were you directing?
Yeah, they were college students,
Okay.
peers.
So you were well peers, but if once you've graduated, there is something goes back to our very first top conversation about titles and so forth. Once you have walked across the stage and you've worn that hat, people just bestow on you a whether a lot of stupid people across the stage and worn a hat, but I mean, but there is There is just something about that you've achieved this, and so we're going to listen to you a little bit more. Listen to your elders, I guess. Who your elder is maybe 22, but yeah.
And some of them, like Bob, Bob had been a student, gone off, had been in the military, and came back. So, and I can't remember if he graduated, was still an undergrad at that point, but he was older than I was and played the lead in it. But I guess that's true. What other? So we did two other shows that summer. I can only remember one of them, which was a funny thing happened on the way to the forum,
Oh, awesome.
which is I did not direct that, but is a great show and little musical, kind of made a tight little musical in that little space. It was just a fun space to direct in and a fun experience to do the summer rep thing, doing three shows like that. Even though they weren't truly in rep, um, it was a good experience. So, probably filled me even more with my own self of thinking, gee, I just directed at college, so I must be really something. Well, I was what I was. Maybe I got humbled after that and said, gee, I'm still learning.
Well, okay. Again, you have a penchant for selling yourself short. Um, Obviously, you did well enough that people took notice of you. You didn't just,
I did get a job.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet because I was surprised. So Coe's graduation was this past week or whatever. Anyhow, and I was shocked by the list of majors that are now popular at Coe. When I was a student, business has been number one forever. So what I'm part of has been number one forever and forever will be. Education used to be number two at Co, and it's not even in the top five now. So I don't know what's happened to the education department at Co, but it's not there. Number two was actually kinesiology, and I was like, wow, they didn't even have those
Okay.
classes when I was there. But my point is, I do know from Coke students who've graduated that not everybody gets a job. The assumption of, oh, I have a degree, therefore I get a job, just isn't true. So,
Well, frankly, I didn't get a job that year
okay.
because I was draftable. And September of my senior year, so that would be approximately what, 9 months before then, the draft happened, the lottery happened.
Hmm.
A friend of mine and I were in a rehearsal that night, listening on the radio to the lottery because they broadcast it live, all these numbers they were pulling out with the first lottery. They started like we picked it up maybe number 10 or whatever, and good, good, not me, not me, not me. And they said, and now recapping, and they said September, whatever, September 14th, Larry about died because that was his birthday. He was lottery number one. I was number 176. Draft, possibly if the draft went that far, the lottery, if they pulled that far, I don't know. Anyway, I finished that year. I had joined the reserves during that late in that year, probably right about that same time we were finishing up school. So then I had a year off where I worked in retail part-time, substitute taught part-time, did whatever I could to pay the bills. And I didn't start teaching till 70. No, then I came back from that and I went to graduate school. So I graduated in 70, went to graduate school in 71, and started teaching in 72. So, maybe that did help me get there,
So,
that
so
experience.
I'm a little confused on something here. Were you actually drafted?
No, I joined the reserve, so I enlisted.
So you did the George Bush thing. You joined the reserves to avoid going to Vietnam?
Well,
I'm just
if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. Damn tootin'. And as you well know, I hated it so much, I stayed for 27 years and retired from the reserves
okay. Okay.
because it was a good experience. I worked with good people. I got into a school company. I loved it. I got promoted, all the way to sergeant major. So it was a good thing. It was a good thing.
Yeah, Sergeant Major. Isn't that from isn't there the play of he was a Major Mounted General. I can never do it right, but
Major Gen, yeah, the modern Major General from HMS Pinafore.
yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So but okay, so since I went down the military road, what did you gain from the military experience that has helped you as a director?
Maybe expectations, expecting people to do their job.
Yeah.
and wanting to do that. So, you had mentioned we might talk about culture or whatever, and we talked about this a little bit when we talked with Natalie. Just coming in expecting people that, this is what's acceptable. We expect
Yeah.
you to do your job. We expect you to come in and do this, and we expect it to be right, and we expect to um, do it to the best of your ability, my ability, our ability, working together to do that. And that, when you look at those first plays, I was a different director, later. I grew, I learned things as I went, things that worked, things that didn't work. Do you get angry at the cast? Yeah, I tried that. That doesn't work. They're feeling bad if something doesn't go right too. So you just polish some things. But coming in with that sense of expectation that we're going to do the job and do it right, it's very much like athletics in that, right? Expect to win. Yeah, let's expect to be good. Let's don't accept mediocre work. And there are some kids that just kind of don't work hard until the very end. You're going to work with all kinds, but
Well, that
always,
was
always, always, I wanted them to be the best they could be.
well that I mean, uh that was the reason I suggested that as another topic to discuss is the fact that Jim Miller brought that up in our talk. That or maybe brought it up after. I don't know. Anyhow, we talked for quite a while after. That he just thought there was something in your military background that gave you the sense of that I expect the best from you. I expect you to do your part. And as long as you do your part, we're fine. You know.
And that may be, it may have come from that, everybody has to do their job. I've, I've felt for a long time, and we're morphing the conversation, which is wonderful because talking first shows is kind of a short conversation. But I believe for a long time, if everybody does their job, everybody's job is easy. It gets
Right.
hard when somebody doesn't do their job, and now you or me, you or I, have
To
to do
carry.
my job and their job, or I
Hmm.
have to do something that covers for their job. So when everybody does their job, maybe it doesn't make everybody's job easy. It makes it go smooth because the whole the whole thing is working. The gears are meshing, and you don't have any tooth meshing in that gear, which causes a hiccup in running the machine. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted everybody to do their job, and it frustrated me when they didn't because it made somebody else's job more difficult.
Right. Right. And you do the as we've discussed before, you do the I'm disappointed in you very well.
Okay.
You know how to make people feel guilty. Yeah, 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 yeah. So I did joke with mom that I'm glad I was not one of your children uh because I was like mom was a master guilt tripper in my family. You just carried it with you just by expectations. So you unlike mom played it for a game, you just kind of made it part of who you are. So um that's a good place to for end on, I think. Is there anything else you want to talk about on your first play and so far?
Now let's make it short tonight. That's been
Okay.
fun.
Do you have any question for me?
Oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought of that. What's happening in your life? Are you still looking to come back to the United States?
Very much want to come back to the US. As the days get hotter and hotter here, it's over 100. It's going to be over 100 every day now until early October. So that's a
Oh,
world.
yeah. The weather here will get, it's not humid there.
No,
I take it.
where I'm at, it's not humid. So I'm in the not humid place. Dubai is like your so I live in the sauna. Dubai is the steam room.
Okay, okay. I don't know that there's a ton of difference there, but I guess if it's a dry,
There definitely is.
a
Oh
dry
yeah.
sauna, the dry sauna. I like a wet sauna.
I
Okay, gotcha.
well, yeah. It's great to have it's great to have the steam room as long as you can step out of it. In Dubai,
Yes.
it just wraps you, even my dog doesn't like going for walks in Dubai. Here he's like, it's hot. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well,
Okay,
I hope
that's a
it
good
works
place
out
to
that you
end.
could.
That's a good place for us to end this here. Anyhow, for us to end the recording. If I
Bye-bye.
can end the recording without ending the meeting. There we go.